women's communities?
I have always been interested in health, but I would have to say about 2 years or so when I was in EMT school and actually doing clinicals in various hospitals, I really got hands-on experience to be able to witness what's taking place amongst our women and even the different treatments of us in various hospitals.
I want you to firstly tell people what EMT is, because I'm not going to assume everyone knows.
Okay. An EMT is emergency medical technician.
And I want you to definitely talk about the difference in treatment, because there are many studies that discuss how, depending on your ethnicity, how you are diagnosed, as far as when you're diagnosed with certain ailments and how you are afforded certain treatments. So what did you see personally?
At one hospital, can I name the hospital? Is that okay? Or?
I have no problem with this.
Okay.
Is the truth here, so I have no problem with your naming it.
I was at Mount Sinai emergency room doing a clinical, and I absolutely dreaded it. It's a very nasty environment. They don't keep their emergency room clean. It's filled with Hispanics and blacks who come in for asthmatic treatments because either you can't afford to have the insurance or we don't understand the seriousness of the illness. And pretty much we're just mishandled. We get literally briefed on what will happen that day, what's okay, what's not okay. Pretty much you're going to have mothers who don't care about their children come in with their children, and they're going to be having an asthma attack, so here's where the nebulizer is. That's how you walk through it. But when you sit down and you talk to the mothers and you hear the stories of, I can't afford my child's nebulizer. I can't afford. You only get so many inhalers if you're on Medicaid. So if my child goes through the inhaler, I can't afford to get my child another inhaler. So you realize what the doctors don't, that this is a human being. And we're not treated that way. Versus if you go somewhere like Northwestern, where you have now a more uppity type environment, more clean. I've witnessed them bypassing, which pretty much means if an ambulance calls in and says, I have a shot victim, they would either in that area take them to Northwestern or Cook County. And I've witnessed Northwestern bypassing them, telling them, no, don't bring them here, take them to the county. And the reason being, which they won't state, but the reason being is most people who get shot in the city of Chicago don't have insurance. So they're looking at it as a bill. They'll take the police officer who got shot,
because they know he's employed.
Exactly. Or the innocent bystander who gets shot, and they will take children. They absolutely will take children. Their children's side of the hospital, the ethics and the morals are higher than the adult side, quite naturally. But they'll just bypass them. Or for us that may walk in, we still get mistreated. You will have some doctors that are more compassionate. But if you're appearance-wise, you appear to be someone poor or someone homeless, or you're definitely going to get mistreated and pushed to the side.
Is this an issue, and maybe they are hand-in-hand issues, but is this an issue of ethnicity or is this an issue of economics?
I would definitely say hand in hand. I would definitely say hand in hand, because we're not in the condition that we're in accidentally. So, and it's not like us as a people, black people, Hispanic people, are not trying to do better. So I definitely would say hand in hand. And when we realize that our power is in unity, when we realize when we can come together and change our situation, it definitely will change.
Now, when we're looking at the economics of it, I'm going to just say it because I always do. When I look at the corner store that is run by someone who's not from the community and definitely not in the same ethnic group, and they're selling flaming hots with ground beef and some type of pseudo cheese, and this is what people are buying for lunch or whatever. And I'll never forget, there used to be a store in the corner of Polk and Kedzie on the northwest corner. I can't remember the name of it. I used to work across the street. And you would smell the meat when you hit the door. And I said, something has to be wrong with this, because when I go to Jewel in my neighborhood, you don't smell anything. Not like that unless there's there's food being cooked on the premises. That you'll smell. But just packaged meat, no. But this is where, at that time, everyone in that neighborhood had to shop. Oddly enough, they brought in a Dominick's, and this shows you how long ago that was. And that was on Roosevelt and Kedzie. And initially, it was exciting. It was exciting and all that. But, and I have to put some of the responsibility on the community, which is why I'm bringing this up. When they could not trade link cards for cigarettes and cash and whatever else was going on, they slowly fell back away from Dominick's and started going back to the little stores on the corners. And eventually that Dominick's closed way sooner than the rest of them, because it just did not have the community support. So some of it is being deprived, and some of it is not accepting the help when it's offered, not understanding the importance of it. So when we're dealing with the quality of food and intake, that is, to me, a little more economic based than ethnic based, because middle class people will find their way to Mariano's or Whole Foods or Jewel or wherever it is they choose to shop, even the ones that go to Aldi, but they are finding their way to a store that can provide them with produce, meat that is not a color that you're not quite sure if that's natural for meat, and those type of things, versus a community where you're dealing with things that are past the expiration date, things that are not fresh, not even an option to have fresh items. So having said that, when we're looking at disease in women, is that along ethnic lines as far as when is it being detected and how is it being treated, or is that along economic lines, or again both?
I'm going to say both. And the reason being is because one principle the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches is to put the clean glass next to the dirty glass. And then the dirty glass will then realize that it's dirty. So yes, quite naturally, our people, they go and they may see this Dominick's, that the Dominick's and the Jewels in our neighborhoods does not look like the Dominick's and Jewels on the north side. So they still do not see that clean glass. It's still tainted. It's still expiration. It's the fruit and vegetables look like a day about to expire. It's horrible. If you go up north, even in the Jewish community, they have a whole aisle of kosher stuff, gluten-free, whatever the case may be for their area. We don't have that, but it's because we're not educated that we should have it. So I can't hold you accountable for that which you don't know. Once you know it, then I can hold you accountable for it. And then I even have to be patient in your growth process, because some of us, we're stubborn, some of us are stubborn. I'm noticing even as we're out in the community, the younger ones are much quicker. They're jumping, I'm not eating that no more. I'm not eating that. So, and then the older ones, it's like, we got to hold their hand. We got to pull up. No. So in that instance, I would definitely say, yes, it's economic. It's ethnical, yes. One, when it comes to diseases, a lot of it is in our DNA. A lot of it is genetic. So what happens is because of our environments, because of what we eat, because of the chemically laced foods, it causes our DNA to now express these diseases that's already there. Diseases that are being proven that it was planted on us through vaccines, that it was planted. They're even now proving that memory can now be transferred through your DNA. So now they're even bearing witness to, during slavery, the pain that we went through, the torment that we went through, the different causes that now is the effect that I see.
The post-traumatic slave disorder, which
Yes,
is
ma'am.
being spoken of. There's actually a black woman, and I cannot recall her name right now, but she's actually done lectures and tours speaking specifically of the post-traumatic slave disorder. And it affects both sides of the fence, so to speak, because it gives one group a feeling of superiority and another group a feeling of inferiority.
Absolutely.
But it also encases the rage, the anger, the frustration, the hopelessness.
That's right.
And anything that remotely resembles that triggers that, see, this is what we've been going through all along.
Exactly.
Feeling. So, yes, I understand that. When we think about, though, because I look at the number of black women that I know personally that are fighting lupus, diabetes, all forms of cancer, obesity, depression, anxiety. And I tell this to my mother all the time. When I was young, I remember diabetes and cancer.
Yeah.
I don't, you had a couple of people that had some allergies
Right.
and a little bit of asthma here
Right.
and there, but nowhere near the list of diseases that we are talking about now, and nowhere near the number of people that were ill. And to me, and I am not a specialist by any stretch of the imagination, but when I saw what I mentioned to you earlier, that posting that said that 80% of the foods that we now eat did not exist 100 years ago, that was troubling and is troubling to me.
Right.
Because I'm wondering, number one, what is this then that we're eating and where did it come from? And number two, is this part of the reason that our health has been affected? And they can say what they want. When you don't feel well, it takes an exceptionally strong person on a really good day, and I'm talking about when you don't feel well physically, to still shine mentally, to still keep that smile going, because it's hard when you don't feel
That's
well.
Right.
So, as I mentioned to you, I didn't think about the seedless watermelon because I just didn't want to pick out the seeds. But how do you have a seedless watermelon, and then where did the other watermelons come from? Okay, this is genetically modified.
Exactly.
OMG.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
I was very disturbed about that.
That's right.
So, how much can we go to the store now and buy and it not be genetically modified in some listing, even though it's not labeled that? Because there are a lot of states like Illinois that are fighting that labeling. How do we know what we're buying? How do we know what we're getting when we're at the store?
To a certain extent, I mean, in some situations you may not, of course. But that's when we go to our local farmers markets, things like that, and to know something that's supposed to have seeds and now it doesn't. That's definitely a clear indication. And then think of it like this too. If it doesn't have seeds, you've now robbed it of its life. So it's like you're eating death, because you took away that reproduction, its natural ability to reproduce itself. You took that away. So we have to ask ourselves, if I choose to eat something like this, what am I doing to my body? Because they created these types of fruits because of droughts, and they still wanted farmers to be able to still grow their food with little rain. So now, in order to do that, I'm going to create something or make something in a lab that doesn't have a seed. So now it doesn't need water in order to grow. But if this natural component,
because it's no longer actually a nutrient.
Nope. It's now man-made.
I'm disgusted. Okay. Now, let's go into where you want Black and Hispanic women of all socioeconomic groups to, like you said, slowly for some, a little more quickly for others. Where do you want them to bring their temple, and by temple I mean mind and body, to get a better understanding of what it is that they're eating, a better understanding of how their mind affects their body and how their body affects their minds, a better understanding of how to live cleanly through what you eat. Because as an Israelite, I follow the dietary law in the Bible. So we don't do the pork, we don't do the shellfish, we don't do any of that. And there's a reason. And I'm not going to sit here and argue with God about whatever his reason was for putting it in there. But if it's in there, that's good enough for me.
Exactly.
So, but I do know that swine is one of the dirtiest animals in the world.
And it's grafted. So
when we're looking at that and you're eating it, that you have to think, if you put it in your mouth, then you have now signed up to be a part of that program.
That's right.
And just like catfish is the pig of
the
water. So, sorry people, didn't mean to get off in a lecture on you, but just had to say that. So we have to be clear.
Facts.
Yeah, we have to be very clear about what it is we're eating. So with women, you are a part of a program that is starting next year, or is it something that has been ongoing and this is...
Next year is the first.
Next year is the first. Okay. Now, we're going to go to a break because H. Cortez has his money moment of the day. But when we finish H. Cortez's money moment, we're going to talk about why we need to have that conversation with women, by women, for women. On the Straight No Chaser Show on intellectualradio.com and iHeartRadio station.
No Chaser family, it's your boy H. Cortez, the financial health mentor to the working class, and I'm coming to you with tonight's Money Moments. You guys have heard me say on this show before that it's better that we treat our money like the seed instead of the harvest. Well, there's no better place to sow that seed than in the hearts and minds of the next generation of wealth builders, our children, right? And there's no better time of year to sow into our children than the holiday season, and in particular, the Christmas holiday season, right? We all know that we have children in our lives, whether they're our own children, nieces, nephews, grandchildren, godchildren. We have children in our lives that we love and care about. Well, at some point, we have to take the responsibility of ensuring that they know the importance of building wealth. They know the importance of becoming owners and producers versus solely being consumers. Well, the Christmas season is a perfect time to introduce them to the concepts of wealth building, the concepts of owning assets versus liabilities. And how do you do that? It's simple. When your children or the children you love ask you for those special Christmas gifts this year, yes, you want to bless them with their wishes and their desires. But in addition to that, if they ask you for the brand new Jordans, the ones, the 10s, the 8s, whatever number is popular right now, instead of getting them those shoes only, how about in addition to the shoes, you get them a share of Nike stock? Right? When they ask you for the Xbox One or the PlayStation 4, yes, you get them the gaming system, but how about in addition to, you get them a share of Microsoft stock or a share of Sony stock? So you guys see where I'm going with this, because at the very least, you're going to be able to start a conversation, because the first thing they're going to ask you is, what in the heck am I supposed to do with that? Right? And that's when you tell them or explain to them, you see, when people line up for blocks and blocks to get the new J's, well, when you own a share of Nike stock, then your company is making money. Yes, your company, because you now own a piece of the company and you're a owner and not just a consumer. So let's take this holiday season to teach some serious lessons. In addition to the lessons of what Christmas is really about, we can also impart to our children the real strategies on how wealth is built in this country. So I thought I'd share that with you guys tonight, since we're coming up on the holiday season. I'm H. Cortez, financial health mentor to the working class. You're checking out Straight No Chaser with my girl Rhea Ray. And until I talk to you next time, get your money up.
And you're back on the Straight No Chaser show on intellectualradio.com and iHeartRadio station. That was H. Cortez with his money moment. I'm with him on the premise. I'm just not with him on the Christmas, because those of you who know me know I've never celebrated Christmas. And if you go through your Bibles, there is no date given for the birth of Jesus Christ. And what he wants you to do is follow his laws and commandments. He doesn't need you to celebrate the day that you think he was born. Now, moving on from that, though, we are going to finish our conversation in regards to women and their health through eating and some other things. Because, see, I'm not the specialist here. Sister Maryam is the specialist. So, again, thank you so much for being a guest on the Straight No Chaser show. Now, we were talking about, before we signed off for a moment, what the program is that you all are putting together for Black and Hispanic women to deal with health issues, dietary changes, etc. So what exactly is the program?
It's a weekend retreat. It's called Loving Me, and it's pretty much a self-healing retreat for women. So there's different workshops. It's at a resort, so it's a spa resort. You can have spa treatments. They have horseback riding. It's phenomenal. It's the Eagle Ridge Resort in Galena, Illinois. Very peaceful environment. The way the weekend is designed is every morning wake up with prayer, meditation, yoga. We have workshops on herbs, learning the different herbs that heals the body. Fireside chat with sister student Donna Farrakhan. We have my particular workshop is making your passion your purpose, overcoming difficulties. We have workshops pretty much focused on your inner healing. How do I just let go? A lot of stress, unnecessary stress that's in our lives, a lot of unnecessary illnesses, a lot of unnecessary diseases, pretty much getting to the core root of the problem and dealing with it. And with this type of a movement, we really want to stop the trend of the diseases and the illnesses. So even though the retreat is next year, we're going into the schools, talking to young children, talking to the youth, to high schoolers, because a lot of us think that obesity is cute. So we have an obesity versus thick campaign because we don't think we're obese. We think we're just thick and luscious and sexy. So we have to teach on that. And you had mentioned the they call them now the curly fries or something. They have them for
the flaming
breakfast.
hots.
Yes, breakfast, lunch, and I mean sometimes we go in the school system. The little tips of their fingers are red, and so pretty much what we try to do is show them what this actually does to your body. And you may not think about it now, but if you don't want to be like what you see the elders in your family, not even elders anymore, it could just be your mother, your aunt. Grandmothers are young now, suffering from diseases that are unheard of. So that were unheard of when we look at our grandmothers.
Right.
So pretty much it's just getting the actual facts out there, just telling them the truth raw. I love showing graphic images on the screen of your colon, what happens to it. We also have a segment of teaching young girls about who are sexually active, about how you as a female absorb the DNA of the male. So we go into explaining that as well.
There's actually been a study done, and it was really mortifying, where it was stated that your multiple sex partners, if you have not used protection, are leaving basically residual DNA
Yes.
in your womb.
Yes.
And that just was really too much for me at that point. I'm like,
Yes.
this is a lot more than most of us thought about.
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask you a question. Do you have age-based workshops where the younger girls are learning certain information
Mm-hmm.
and the older ladies are learning a little different information, or is it just everyone in every group? How does that work?
This particular one, it is 16 and older. So it is everyone together, 16 and older though. So the younger ones, not just yet, not for this particular retreat, because we really wanted this particular retreat to be women having a spiritual revelation, women coming back into themselves, their value. And at this point, we've lost ourselves, even in being a wife, being a girlfriend, being a mother. You don't know who you are. So this weekend is really designed about coming back into the essence of yourself and building your connection with God. And then if it be at His will, we will continue with other retreats that will grow from that point.
One of the things that I would like to see someone do, and I'm sure someone is doing it, and I just haven't seen it on a bigger scale yet,
Mm-hmm.
is teaching about urban gardening.
Oh, yes.
Because if I could figure out how to make a garden grow and keep the squirrels and stuff out of it, I would be a candidate for that in the spring, because part of what we're dealing with is, like I said, GMOs.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so if you are growing some of your own food, that cuts down on having to buy it somewhere else. Sherwood Grant, who is a personal trainer that also deals with holistic healing, said something to me a couple of years ago that I thought was very important. And it was basically, what would everyone do if the truck stopped coming in to Jewel? And I hadn't thought about it before, because who thinks about the trucks not coming?
Right.
But if there is ever a time that something happens and the trucks stop rolling or whatever, what are we going to eat for those people that have not established their own gardens, their own farms, their own, life force as far as their food is concerned? So it's very important to me that we get back into gardening, even urban gardening, for those that are in cities.
Yes, we actually, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan started that last year on his farm in Michigan. It was open to everyone. It wasn't, you had to be registered in the Nation of Islam. It was open to everyone. It was a weekend of learning how to grow your own farms. So learning how to grow vegetables, how to do a hoop house. It went into all of that. And I do know they'll be having another one this year. I just don't know of the exact dates. So I would just say for those who are interested to follow on NOI.org and see when it'll be posted again. Because last year, and I was just up there kind of like briefly, and people was having a ball. They was really having a good time.
Now, I know you mentioned that his daughter is one of the presenters.
Yes.
For the weekend event.
Mm-hmm.
Is this under the banner of the Nation of Islam?
No. It's not. It's actually under my non-for-profit, Heal Thy Life Center. So it's not a religious-based retreat. It's for everyone. It's open to all women, of course, Hispanic or Black. And we just want to have some healing and some fun.
Now, one more question on that.
Mm-hmm.
When we're having this weekend, you said that there are other things to do, such as horseback riding and the spa services. Are there times allotted? Because
yes,
whenever you have conferences, I know a lot of times, it's all day you're doing something.
Right.
So there is time allotted for women to go have some me time, whatever they choose. All right. And how do they register?
They go to my website, www.heal-thylife.com.
And they'll get all the information there.
Yes.
Okay. Now we're going to take another brief break, and when we come back, we're going to discuss what you see in the future for women, good and bad, depending on how we choose to manage our lives. On the Straight No Chaser Show on intellectualradio.com and iHeartRadio station. Back on the Straight No Chaser Show on intellectualradio.com and iHeartRadio station. Now, Maryam, we want to talk a little bit about how to turn your health around if you choose, because some of us, let's be honest, don't choose to. I have a co-worker friend who says, well, you got to die from something. I said, well, you know what? I don't have to die from that. Right. I don't have to die from that. And I don't have to die this soon.
Exactly.
So for those people who are struggling with illnesses, are struggling with weight, what are you advising that they do to not just bring some equilibrium back into their systems, but to heal themselves without all of the medication, hopefully, that to me is being mass produced to make money versus to heal you. Like I say, it works for some people, but I think overall that's not necessarily the case. So what would you tell an overweight woman to do if she wants to bring her weight down a little and improve her health?
You know, the first step is you have to fall back in love with yourself. You have to get out of this mentality that being big is beautiful or is accepted, or your bones don't grow to compensate your size. So some of us say, oh, I'm big boned. No, you're not. No, you're not. Your bone does not grow to compensate your size. You're in pain. And we think that I'm supposed to live in pain. That's the root of a lot of causes, whether it's spiritual, mental, physical. We think that I have to be in pain. So a lot of women are eating who are obese because that's like an outlet for the pain that I really have internally.
Emotional eating.
Exactly. So the first thing I would say is you have to fall in love with yourself. You have to love yourself enough to say, you know what? This is not what my body needs. Those women have to be educated. And I feel like I'm not an obese person, but I feel like I'm a fat girl trapped in my body because I love to eat. But I discipline myself. I have to discipline myself because I don't want to be in pain. I don't want to suffer from different ailments or illnesses that I see other people suffering from. I don't want that for myself. So we have to know and believe that that's not my destiny. I don't have to suffer from cancer, arthritis, diabetes, high blood pressure, which the root of all of it is obesity and stress. So if we just learn how to love ourselves, that will eliminate other things, because when you start falling in love with yourself, your value raises. Now I won't settle for this. Even if the pain started from a man, it doesn't matter. Still, you recognize the source when you fall in love with yourself and you begin to now eliminate that source that brought you that pain, that put you in the condition that you're in.
Now, let me speak as someone who's not considered overweight at all. But my BMI is high. And for people that don't know what BMI is, it's body mass index, which is basically what percentage of fat are you carrying.
Exactly.
So don't think just because you're considered slender that you're healthy.
That's right.
Because I was in shock. Not too much though, because I knew I was higher than I should have been. I just didn't know I was as high as I was. And I just found this out last Wednesday. And so now I have to get into an organized plan to get my BMI to drop. I have to drop 20 pounds of fat. And that's just real talk. And most people say, oh, girl, you don't need to lose any weight. Listen.
Hey.
When someone tells you that the average BMI is 26, I think it is, mine is 33. That's way too high. And I don't care how it looks on the outside. I don't care how other people view it. I'm telling you that when your health and weight and all that are not in alignment to what you should be, you will know the difference because you'll feel heavier. And even though some of us have gotten used to feeling heavier, you do feel heavy, and your health is not the same. If you are huffing and puffing, walking up 4 stairs, there's something going on, and I don't care if you're a size 6 or a size 26. There's a problem.
That's right.
So when you were talking about, though, the pain that we carry and it manifests in other ways, such as illness, such as overeating and all this, as women and as Black and Hispanic women, perhaps a little bit more than other women, I'm not going to put my money on that because I don't know a lot of women of other ethnicities that I've spoken with personally about their personal struggles. But I do know a lot of Black and Hispanic women that I have. And what I find to be interesting, and this is also in concert with mental illness, a lot of them still hold on to past pain. And when I talk with my clients who have mental illness, as far as diagnosed mental illness, a lot of them talk about past traumas that have affected them. So I'm not saying that because you have a past pain that you haven't handled that you're mentally ill. I'm saying, though, it is a traumatic situation that will affect you for the rest of your life if you don't address it, if you don't look at it for what it is and figure out how to handle it, get rid of it, get through it, whatever. But there is something you have to do to address that, to have peace. Because without the peace, it's not going to work.
Yeah, you got to face it.
Now, for your non-for-profit organization, what is it that you do besides what's coming up next year? What is it you do daily?
We do workshops, seminars. I also have a health magazine that comes out quarterly. It was bi-monthly this year. As of January, it would be quarterly because of other things that are growing. So it'll be quarterly. And I was thinking about a radio show. I was thinking about other avenues to help get the word out there. And someone actually had asked me about consultations or what have you. I've given that some thought, but haven't made a decision on that yet. But pretty much now everything is based off of group versus individual talks or guidance in what to actually do. So every day I'm constantly thinking of how to get the information out, how to help get us out of the condition that we're in, stop us from suffering. And a lot of times I do find myself talking to individual people about their particular situation, how to get out of it, because we have to be that village again. We have to be that community that helps one another. And if my sister she has to work nights and she's in school and I know her baby needs dinner. I mean, if she's my next door neighbor, why can't I feed her child? Make sure her children got home safe. Things like that we have to come back into doing again. I met a young lady, a little girl. She was in second or third grade. I think she was in third grade. And she was taking her kindergarten brother home and told me that she bathes him. She makes sure he does his homework. She feeds him and puts him to bed because her mother's at work. Where's the community in that situation? She's a single mother. She's by herself. But the first thing we'll do is say, how dare she do that to her children? You don't know the situation. We cannot be so judgmental. We have to, when we learn to love ourselves, we'll start loving each other again and become that community. So when I see my sister picking up that piece of cake or that piece of pie, girl, you don't need that. Put that down. Let's go to the gym together.
Right. And we're not saying you can't ever have it.
Right. No, because I'm going to have my chocolate cake. I'm going to have my...
But it has to be like everything else in moderation.
Yes, absolutely.
And You're making a very good point about the holistic view of it, which is once I can get at peace with myself, I can become much more peaceful with you. Mm-hmm. And why not lend a hand?
That's right.
And now if the person rejects it, that's no longer on me.
That's right.
But I've done my job as far as extending myself, because if we want to look at what is it, what I see on the back of those people's car all the time, what would Jesus do?
Right.
And that cracks me up because I'm like, and aren't you the person that stuck your middle finger out the window with your little "What would Jesus do" bumper sticker on there? But if we are honestly dealing with a faith-based approach, a Bible-based approach, and for you a Quran-based approach,
or both. I mean, we study both.
Yes. So. To deal with how we are to treat each other. I wouldn't, as a human, as a woman, as a follower of Christ, I wouldn't want to see anyone's child suffer.
That's right. That's right.
And if there's anything I could do to alleviate that stress on this woman that's not killing me, why wouldn't I?
That's right.
So tell us again, when is the weekend of the retreat?
It's May 19th through the 22nd.
And they go to what website to register?
www.heal-thylife.com.
And they can book you for other speaking engagements, etc. through the site as well? All right. Any phone numbers to call?
They can call 708-401-0887. Yeah, I'll just give that number.
That's all right. And on Facebook, you are Maryam, middle
K.
initial K, Muhammad with an AD.
Yes.
See, I know a little something. And it's and an MU.
Right.
So it's not an MO and it's not an ED. See? All right. Yep. And with that is this segment of the Straight No Chaser Show on intellectualradio.com. Thank you again for being a guest.
Thank you.
And I look forward to seeing everyone next week. Mr. Earl Winfrey, you ready? We are ready. And as always, dedicate yourselves to the truth, no matter the cost. This is your host, Rhea Ray Harris, wishing everyone a wonderful and peaceful evening. Be safe.
Rhea gives the people a voice, empowers you with a choice. She gives you straight talk to no chaser. Straight talk with no chaser. Straight talk with no chaser. Straight talk with no chaser. She provides a platform of growth and gives a dying people chaser. Straight talk with no chaser. Straight talk with no chaser. Straight talk with no chaser.